Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome everybody to Budget Version 2 for the Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee. At this time, I'd like to stand and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call the members, please.
Mr. Franti?
Here.
Ms. Ty?
Here.
And Mr. Kingston?
Here. Thank you. At this time, I just want to welcome the members that are here. Ms. Bronson Rizzo is here, and Superintendent Dr. Diane Kelly, and our CFO, Matt Cruz. And I'm sorry, Aisha Milby-Ellis is on a Zoom. And at this time, I want to turn it over to Matt, basically to show the highlights between version 1 and version 2, and after that time, we'll open it up for questions.
Sure. So at the end of our last meeting, we had some educational vision items we were looking to embed into the budget and take advantage of some of this Student Opportunity Act money that had become available to us. So throughout the second version here, you will see that highlighted in pink is either material changes or just straight additions that have happened to line items of the budget since we last met. So we can answer any questions about any of those. They should be familiar moving from Dr. Kelly's documentation into the right places in the budget. Also, don't forget, throughout this process, there's moving parts that increase and decrease required budget. So for example, in the interim from the last time that we met, there's been some changes to the cherry sheets, tuitions, reimbursements, charges. So I'll keep capturing those realities until the last hour that I can. So there's some giving and taking there. We also had a good, solid meeting with our Special Education Student Services Department today. And so in version 3.0, there's some pending tuition costs that we'll need to capture, but there's also some tightening up that we can do. So there's some ebb and flow in the process as we're going. And sometime toward the back end of May, we say, okay, here's the actual numbers we need to work with. So on the budget snapshot, you can see that as of our conversation tonight, the give and take has gotten us to a point where in the budget you're looking at 1.0, there is 2.0, there's $166,000 unobligated, meaning still available to the committee to put in some places. And like I said, there's some give and take that will happen in the background of these conversations before we get to a final vote. So I think that summarizes what's happened in the last couple weeks or 10 days since we talked.
Can I just add a note to that? So since then, there have been a number of additional ideas brought forward for budget consideration. One of them was from Mr. Ferranti about repeating the $200 increment that we gave to teachers. Another is from Dr. Gallucci, who is going to present at the school committee meeting on Tuesday, a proposal on a safety device that he and our SROs have looked at. It's called FlipLock. That's about all I know about it. But I know there's some monetary, it's not a cheap device. I believe it's like $150 per unit. And it does something to the doors to lock them, but I'll leave it to Dr. Gallucci to give the details on that. I know that Ms. Rizzo mentioned that she had heard of this device too. So we can talk more about that on Tuesday, but that's probably like a $250,000 ask. The special ed money Matt already talked about, and we've been informed by the EL, or the World Languages Department, that we are in need of an additional English language learner teacher at the high school. So all of these are, as Matt said, the ideas come, things fluctuate, we refine the budget. We'll continue through that process, but I just wanted to put those ideas on the radar because obviously they're going to add up to more than the 166,000 that we're seeing here right now. And we're also in the process of reviewing all of our ESSA grants. So there is a possibility that we could take a look at some one-time items, like I'm thinking about some money we have allocated in this budget for Chromebooks that we could pay for as we reconcile our ESSA grants, move them out of this budget to make room for these other items that we're all talking about newly today. And those things that we'll highlight in pink in version 3.0 when, you know, that time comes.
Yep.
Mr. Kingston?
True, to Matt. Matt, for the $200, do we have a ballpark what it would cost? Based on what we did last time? For the teachers' supplies, I'm sorry. I just didn't have a number.
We have about 650 teachers, if I think of RTA. So it's about $130,000?
Excuse me, but last time, there was 736 teachers at $200, it was a 147 too. So
And
it's-
we realized after that we were counting some teachers who were on leave of absence, who didn't actually get the benefit because they weren't going to be here for the year.
But does your number, excuse me, include the additional ones that are in this budget?
So the 650, is that the number, Matt? 725? In this budget?
No, I'm just saying, does that include, now she just said it was 636. Does that include the people that we're adding into the budget on the wish list?
Oh, good question. Thank you.
I just know that it would, I think the
Would just be-
supply, I apologize. I just think the supply thing was well received by staff, and I'm just worried about, I'm worried about staffing next year. I'm worried about filling all these positions that I think are great. I'm hoping we find all these people, and I was just trying to, you know, I know it's a small amount of money, but it's something, and if, you know, it's just a small amount to the individual person, but it's just, you know, another kind of perk of the job, so to speak. That, you know, a job that doesn't have a lot of perks. So it's something that Mr. Ferranti, I agreed with his thoughts on it. So it's something I'd really like to look at. Thank you.
So just a reminder also, the way that we did that mechanically last year was we waited until the fall when we had an exact figure on what was available to the committee to reappropriate from the carry forward and mobilize the funds there. So we do the best we can to look at that crystal ball. We know we're committing $5 million of that carry forward to classroom teachers, but traditionally in the October time period, there'll be some funding available for you to use for needs that have come up or something like that. So if it didn't make it into this initial appropriation, that doesn't mean that you don't have opportunity potentially in the fall to mobilize some of those carried forward funds for that purpose as well.
And I'll just add, you know, at this particular point in time, we want to make sure that our budget is encompassing all of the absolutely necessary needs, like the 8 students that are possibly going to have an outplacement this year, their tuitions need to be accounted for. The additional EL teacher at the high school needs to be accounted for. These other things, we can have broader conversations when we have a clearer picture in the fall, if we can't do it now. And we might be able to do it now, you know? We might. I know.
Mrs. Rizzo?
Yeah, I just have a comment, and even though it is nice to be able to give the classrooms things that they might want for their classroom and specialize in, our fiscal responsibility needs to come first, and that is with the ELL teachers. We could lose some Title I money. I just want to make sure all those are covered prior to gifts.
All right, are there any, Carol, do you have any questions?
No, I'm happy to see that we are in as good a position as we are in. and hope that it remains that way. But one thing I just want to be sure I'm clear on page 5. Oh, sorry. On page 5, I got a notice from the Retired Teachers Association about this, and I just thought maybe you might want to make a comment on it, that we've added the 70%.
Sure. So one of the obligations on the municipality is to ensure that the retired teacher's health insurance plan is funded. And over the course of the last 15 years, there's been back and forth on who foots the bill for that. And not just who fits the bill, but does this qualify as net school spending dollars, or is it an unqualifying expense? And so a couple of years ago, they began to scale in eligibility for those funds to count toward net school spending. The reason that they scale it in is it would be a big loss to the school department to suddenly be told, hey, next year, the first $2,300,000 of your increase is going to the teachers. You're going to cover that cost, not the city. So what we're doing now is fading that in over time. So it was 40%, 50%, 60% next year, 70% of the cost for retired teachers' health insurance is attributable to net school spending. So we're seeing that as a qualifying cost at the top of Schedule 19.
Good. Thank you.
It's not in writing, but the expectation
okay,
is
right.
80%, 90%, 100%. They're phasing it in that way.
I've been getting calls on it. People want to know what's happening to our health insurance. Thank you for the explanation.
I should just add, for the retired teachers that might be listening, it shouldn't change benefits at all.
No.
It's just how it's paid. So just so that our former colleagues know that they shouldn't be worried about
Right.
that.
Yeah, I did, but I can't find it. Thank you, Michael. Mr. Franti, excuse me. Dr. Kelly, at some point, and I know I read it, but I don't see it here unless it moved, there was $100,000 for a sound system at the high school.
Yep.
And I don't object to that. I just didn't know and hope it doesn't happen. I'll stand in front of the bulldozer when it shows up to knock this building down. Is that something I was concerned about, I don't know how to say it. I was concerned about putting something in the building that,
Yeah.
because you know, in all due respect, you said that and I agreed with you.
Yeah.
And then I saw it back in the budget, which I don't have a problem with. I did go to the rock ensemble the other night, and while I'm not a sound expert, it sounded okay to me. But I'm not saying they don't need it. I don't mean it that way. It's just, $100,000 is $100,000, and if it's something that's, when they're going to bulldoze it, just kind of.
Yeah, I do struggle with that a lot because, exactly as you said, if this building's not going to exist, why are we investing in it? But there are still going to be students attending school here for the next, I would think we're probably 5, maybe 6 years away from
I agree.
the point that this building comes down. And so to have 6 years of kids can't have effective sound in the auditorium, we found out with the play that it was worse than we thought it was. And the only speakers that are working are the ones that are just beside the stage. So I think that it is worth it to put $100,000 into that sound system. And we don't even have quotes yet. That was a guesstimate
I figured.
from talking to a couple of people
Yeah, I
who
figured.
had some idea. If we can make the sound system at least feasible, viable for the next 5 or 6 years, I think $100,000 isn't that much to put in, you
Okay.
know?
And one more question. I'm sure it's in here, and I apologize, I had a sheet of paper and I left it in the car. Is the SBA's getting fixed? Because theirs needs it more than the high school does. Because I went to, the SBA had their show, and the speakers, and the system was tough. Aisha, Miss Ellis was there as well. And we both talked about it, that needed some work. And I know she had asked, but I don't know if it's in here.
Yeah, we did put in for, I don't know that it was a
Yeah.
speaker system. I thought it was a microphone system.
I'll get the page number so we can see.
So I might have misunderstood that request.
I don't know what you
Okay.
need, I'm not a sound tech, but the sound system, in my humble opinion, just as a spectator, the sound system at the SBA was worse than the one at,
If you scroll to page 1, 36,
No, I believe you.
you'll notice that the Susan B. Anthony has an instructional equipment
50,000.
sound system line that's been added.
50,000.
Yes, yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. Okay,
Mrs. Rizzo?
thank you.
And I also agree, because I attended both those, but has those department heads requested those items? Because I feel like it should always come out of the department head, or whatever department it's from.
The high school, Ms. Williams did request for the high school. She did not make the request for the Susan B. Anthony.
That came from Ms. Ellis, and I agree with her. Aisha and I talked about it when we were there, because we couldn't hear very well that day.
hear, but I thought, I didn't know you were a team.
No, we're not, we happened to be at the same place, and we said, gee, the sound didn't sound very well. Sorry. The sound didn't sound very well, so I felt badly, and I know that building's not coming down, so my thought was to put the money there, because hopefully that building isn't coming down for a very long time.
We can, in both cases, assess the feasibility and the viability, and then make a determination. It's never wrong to budget for something and then figure out that you don't quite need it. And that's, again, the conversation that'll come in the fall if we decide to reallocate some of those funds.
If I may?
Go ahead.
Sure, yeah, exactly what John and Diane have just touched upon. The issue is that the SBA promotes the drama program, and that's their like selling point, right? But when many of us went to the show, what we experienced was the sound was of terrible quality. It was with the microphones. And so the suggestion was, if we could get this into the budget now, obviously you can work out the kinks and details as far as how much they need, what they need, but there's no doubt about it that they do need it, and I'm sure that they'd be quite appreciative of that foresight. So I hope there's no opposition to this request. Thank you.
Matt, I get a couple, anybody else have any questions before? No? Okay. Matt, on page 6, at the very bottom, asset acquisition, I noticed that we have only 100,000 set up, and I'm not sure if the 100,000 is for here, but why is there only $100,000 of improvements this
Yep.
year?
The auditors for the city, Powers and Sullivan, recommended that the city slot all of their payments for long-term debt on the same schedule. And what had been happening was the long-term debt payment for some of the HVAC repairs that we did 10 years ago that we're paying down over a 20-year bond, it was included on the Schedule 19. So what they've done is they removed it from that schedule, put it on the city side, so they're not embedding it in our budget, and we're not paying the bill. So it just disappeared from this schedule. If you want to go to the city council meeting and look at the long-term debt schedule, you'll say, oh, I see an addition there for the energy services project that we had done. We maintain a $100,000 line in there because it gives us the freedom with Carl that if a building-related repair comes up that's not ordinary maintenance, that needs immediate attention, we don't have to deal with long-term debt conversation with the city or the city council. So that $100,000 is available for any capital need that may come up at the school side for the fiscal year.
But if we, if we have something excess of that, say there's a couple of capital improvements and they're 200,000,
Yep.
and we're only budgeting 100, where's the other 100 going to come from?
So the city has a capital improvement plan. We would go to that plan and they would have to free up available funds to address things. Something that was slated to happen in 2025 might have to get pushed to 2026. So they have a capital funding plan of their own. This is a traditional way that we can both work with each other to say, up to this amount, if there's a need, we don't have to go through all those bells and whistles.
And another question I have, I noticed that in several departments that the overtime was increased. What is the thought process behind that?
Mostly that's just a better accounting, so the total dollar amount allocated to overtime hasn't changed. There's some work that the central office, business finance office staff will do on behalf of the city for things like submitting reports so that their Medicaid reimbursement things can be processed through Shore Collaborative and UMass. So we had not been slotting those overtime dollars in the place where they've been being spent from. So that's mostly just more accurate accounting. And you'll see other accounts that have dipped some and others increased in that way. So every year we try and go in and say, hey, how did it work in the previous year? Are we funding properly to where we're actually using the money in the new season that we're in?
If you have a specific department you want us to look at, we can.
Well, I mean, most of them are really sharp money. I'm not
Yeah.
disputing the money. I'm just saying, why all of a sudden? Because the only thing I can compare, Matt, is from budget 1 to budget 2.
Right?
Right.
And there's a couple of them went up, but it wasn't a lot of money. But you're just saying that overtime is a bookkeeping purpose, then why do we need it then? Just to address it in the salaries.
Well, when we cut overtime checks to people, the job code that we're using is different than their recurring base. And the Department of Education prefers that in accounts for professional, clerical, or other salaries, that when they go to the backup, they're only seeing what we would call 102, like recurring base salary or longevity, something that is contractually obligated. For stipends or overtime, they prefer for those to be in separate accounts. So that's why we have that large miscellaneous payments to teachers. If you go into the payroll, you go, oh, I can see they're using a 106 code or a 108 code, and the dollar amount is coming off of the contract for teachers. Same thing with overtime. So if we run that report, you will see the hourly rate for the custodian or the secretary or the security guard and a different kind of fund code. So some of that's happening in the background, and it doesn't get lost in the fray of how much did you do for regular ongoing salaries for this staff.
Mr. Kingston?
Now, on page 128, on the other costs at the bottom of the page,
Yep.
well, I was looking at the advertising first. Are we just going to put less ads in the newspapers? Is that the plan, or?
We have been, yes.
Okay. And then I was concerned about the insurance. Did that just move to another account? It went from 12,000 to 0.
That's right. What we did was we revisited with the city how non-employee insurance is charged back to us.
Okay.
And so the increase on Schedule 19 also triggered a small decrease in other bills that we would have been paying. We're not going to give them more on Schedule 19 and then pay the premiums ourselves.
Okay. And then on the printing services, just going to do it in-house or not do it at all? One from
We
6
have,
to 1.
we have resourced Michael Hyde in the district-wide printing
No, great.
office
That's what I figured. I just wanted to.
with a monstrous machine and then a second machine that does color.
Okay.
He uses it sparingly, but it's saving us money from having to
Yep,
go out.
That's fine. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I just wanted some clarification. Thank you, sir.
Matt, I have 2 questions. On page 8, the ESSER 3 grant's $13 million. Is any of that reflected in the budget at all for expenditures?
The only place that you'll see funding intended to come from grants is at the bottom of the salary details.
Okay.
So if you go to the bottom of the salary detail pages, you'll see ESSER 3 section, and it will show you what we're certain will be attributed to that grant for professional staff. As far as the capital projects that are being done, Chromebooks that are being purchased, Google licenses, transportation services, we don't put those in this budget. You can see them in each individual grant budget. And so the budgets have been established for those things. But since it's not a give or take on the non-salary side of the appropriated, we don't add another 40 pages in there for that. What we do is say, hey, we don't want you to miss what recurring staff is coming out of grants. It's also a check for you on the final version to say, we have a sense of how much staff is covered regardless of the funding source. And it's a check for me to know we have not missed any staff I know where everyone is being funded from. So that's why we wouldn't have to include that in your appropriated budget that you're voting, but we try to for those purposes.
And we will provide another so at the end of this year, ESSER 1 ended last year, ESSER 2 will end this year, and we'll still have ESSER 3 that carries through for another year. And so when we get to maybe like July or August, we'll review that with you again, with both of them. The ESSER 2 has to be spent by the end of September, so some of that grant money in ESSER 2 is actually still available. We're using most of it over the summer, but we'll review that and the whole ESSER 3 planning
Yes.
after this budget process is finished, probably like around August, because we also want to keep track of that ESSER 3 to make sure we're spending that down before the end of September 2024, which is the deadline for spending on that. But, so if you look at it right here, Michael, it says $13,000. That's all planned out already. Some of it to pay for teachers and other staff who, at the end of next year, we have to try to get into our regular budget, because the ESSER is going to be gone.
Yep.
$5.5 million of that is the money that was put aside for the renovation at the McKinley School to put an early childhood center there. The city has made some traction on that in the last couple weeks. The city planner has talked to us several times about that, and we're hoping that's going to move forward sooner than later. So I'm optimistic about that actually coming to fruition. And, you know, other things, there were some other larger capital improvements that are being paid through this as well.
Okay. Let me just finish up. Matt, my last question, on page 14, utilities. You got a figure that you figure is going to be about $200,000 less from 23 to 24.
Yes.
I think that, and I don't know about anybody else, but I know my utility bills are going through the roof. And I'm sure it's the same thing here. So how are we figuring we're going to spend less money throughout the year?
Well, so to use that example, it would be as if you had gone onto your roof and installed brand-new solar panels, and then you would say, I am expecting my costs to go down if these investments are bearing fruit. So over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a number of building-based investments that have improved efficiency. And also the city has contracted with a solar farm to receive credits on electricity bills. So we dug into these details. It's what we don't want to do is miss out on investing, say, $500,000 that you could in instruction, because we have dramatically over budgeted what's happening with utilities. So the effect, we've been realizing it already, and the budgeting is catching up for that, so that the point is being served. The reason we did those projects is so that you would have more money available for other things.
Okay. Mr. Kingston?
Can I add one point to that, Michael? I did ask Matt to dig in a little bit deeper on that the first time I looked at it, because we did have a pretty mild winter. And he confirmed that he went back historically and wasn't just relying on last year's utility costs to inform next year. So we did that legwork.
The rates have gone through the roof. The rates have gone through the roof with the electric and gas. I mean, they've gone up like 40 to 60%. So you really can't take what we used last year, because if we get a bad winter, and with the rates going up, we might not have enough money there. Just want to be careful, that's all. Go ahead, Mr. Kingston.
Last question, Matt. On page 141 at the bottom,
Yep.
it's a lot of money, that's why I'm asking, and I apologize for not bringing my notes, but I'm thinking, I'm coming up with my questions. The Chromebooks was minus 50,000, and then the big one was the lab replacement. I'm not sure what that is. And it's a lot of money, obviously, $200,000.
Right, so the reduction there is because ESSER 3 has a substantial amount of money to invest in lab replacement and Chromebooks. And so for this year, you may even see this with a 0 in the last version of the budget if we need to mobilize some of that money to cover some of the things we've talked about. So we have a year next year where it's about 60% of the funding that came from the ESSER grants for John for those things will be encumbered and spent in FY24. So that could go as low as 100 this year, because we know the investment is coming through the ESSER grants. The real question will be, a year from now, you'll be sitting with me and saying that, why did that line go up by 500? And the reason will be because we have exhausted all the investment that the ESSER funds are doing for specifically mobile technology.
Thank you, I'm sorry, thank you.
I have a question for Dr. Kelly. On the wish list that you gave us, are all 76 people included in this year's budget?
The one from between version 1 and this? Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Ms. Ty?
Well, this is a follow-up to that. On page 137, and I noticed it a little previously to that, too, on some of the previous pages, you find the same thing. These are programs that are all going to Revere High School. Oh, I'll wait till you get there.
Let's see here. On page 137,
Yes,
um,
you know, there's the electronic pass that you were talking about, and
yeah, all of that is for the high
all
school.
of that is,
Yep.
it's all new, and it's all to help the high school get what it needs in order to succeed and address all the kids' needs,
That's
which
right.
are great.
And I will say, some of them, like the electronic hall pass system, if we find that that's successful at the high school, that's something that we could look to expand to our middle schools next year. You know, so, but we want to start in one place and see how it goes, take it from there.
And will you contract with a specific? Will you contract with a specific group for the Lives in the Balance group training and the follow-up training and?
Yes, and I wish I knew exactly who that was. It would be on my more detailed notes page, but that is an organization that Mr. Bowen and his team selected to work with.
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. And the pilot?
Yeah.
I was just curious about the amount of money that would be spent on the pilot at Revere High School.
Are you talking about the academy pilot?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, that's ninth grade, is it?
It is not necessarily ninth grade.
Oh.
What Mr. Bowen is looking to do is start a smaller kind of school within a school. We've done this a lot. It's the way
Yeah.
Seacoast originally started, for students who are at higher risk than others. It would complement the program that we have for students that have some emotional needs that are at Coast Collaborative right now. This would be for students who have different kinds of needs.
I noticed that there's a teacher leaving from Coast Collaborative too.
There is?
Oh. Never mind.
I don't know about that.
Okay. What is Boston College City? Do you know that?
I should know all of these things, but I don't have, I should have brought my notes.
Shouldn't.
The previous note has the Center for Thriving Children at Boston College will provide Revere High School support in the design and then it cuts off there.
Oh,
So
boy.
that link
Okay,
in the
I
first
wonder if I can pull my
document.
notes up here.
Thank you.
You all set, Carol?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Mr. Kingston, then I'll get to Mrs. Reed.
No, you're on the committee.
Go ahead.
Matt, I'm sorry, I come up with another one. On 137, Jessica Danino posted that she had gotten a grant for the Big Brothers. Would that supplement this 30,000? Would that 30,000 maybe go away?
I think that what she was advertising is that we had gotten that grant for
Okay, I'm
Big
sorry.
Brother, Big
I was just
Sister. It's a new
curious. Yep.
partnership. I had sent you all that information that we were selected out of, I forget exactly what the number was, my brain's not working today. But there were a whole lot of applicants, and we were the ones selected with Big Brother, Big Sister. So that's a really exciting mentorship program.
no.
And I don't know if you've already been contacted, I know some people have been, about being mentors to some of the kids. I know they're looking for more people in the area.
Do you have any information on the extent of that? I mean, is it going to be like 10 kids who are freshmen?
It's going to be 100 freshmen.
All
Yeah,
freshmen?
Yep. And I think did I not give you guys a summary of that? I thought I did. Okay.
No, you did.
Oh, okay.
I apologize. She made it sound like it was state funding, and I didn't know why it was on our budget.
It's the kind,
I'm sorry.
it's the kind of arrangement where they're kicking in a lot of resources and we kick in some to make it happen.
Yeah, no, I just want some clarity. Thank you. I don't have a problem with the project. It's great.
Mrs. Rizzo?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, when you talk about the electronic pass, is that what is being used at Susan B. Anthony?
It's similar. Susan B. Anthony and the brilliant educators there created their own system where the students can scan their pass. It's similar to that, but it's a little bit more formalized. It does more data processing than the Susan B. Anthony is based out of a Google document. The program that Mr. Bowen is planning to introduce does more of the data analysis, and so there can be a summary per pupil on how late were they to each class and all of those pieces that I think parents are looking forward to learning more about.
It's nice to know that this is going to be a bigger, better, capable of doing more things, but the Susan B. Anthony people were very happy with this electronic pass and feel it's helped out immensely. So I'll take it.
Dr. Kelly, I thought we were getting a grant for that because I remember that was part of the last package for Mr. Bone brought in.
That was, I think that what you're thinking of is the, we got the grant for this year to carry us through the end of this school year, but now we have to fund it for next year.
Okay, all right.
We got a free trial.
Right.
Does anybody else have any questions? Ms. Milbury Ellis, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you. I just thank Matt for all of his work and Dr. Kelly putting in this budget together.
Okay, at this point, Matt, what's our next move to do?
So what we'll do now is we'll take it from this conversation, and our goal will now be to present to you a balanced budget. So you can hear some of the moving parts in the background. We hope to have the Senate version of the state budget lockdown and can adjust any ins or outs that happen there. There's 3 notes I have here of potential additions. Dr. Galucci looking at the flip lock, adjusting for some pending tuitions in the SPED department, and an EL teacher at the high school. I'm also happy to go in and do another round of, let's look at the last set of bills that has come through for our utilities and make sure that our projections are holding. And so what we would do with version 3.0 is present to you something that is balanced. And then either we could have another brief Ways and Means meeting to review that, or that balanced budget can be presented to the committee in June. But I'll be doing that work over the next couple of weeks to get to a balanced budget.
So you think we'll have it by the end of May?
Sure. Yeah, next week is the annual institute with the school business officials. So I'll get from the horse's mouth anything else that's involved in this year's process. The week I come back from that, the week before Memorial Day weekend, is the week that we should be able to work through all this and have a third version to you.
I mean, it's up to the committee members. My own opinion, I think we should have one more meeting on 3.0, and then we present it to the school committee for a vote. So
Agreed.
I will work it out with Robin to get another date, probably close to the end of the month, so we can, because I know our meeting in June is relatively quick.
Yeah, my goal would be to have that version of the budget done sometime toward the middle end of the 4th week of May, so prior to the Memorial Day weekend. So maybe the vacation week, that Wednesday, Thursday, we can have that. You should have ample time over that weekend to review.
All right, so we're going to shoot for probably the very first part of June.
Or even like May 30th, 31st.
Yep,
Yeah.
that week would be fine.
Okay.
I mean, I know there's travel and vacation, but we can find a time in there. And when you do that review, you should be looking at something that is balanced.
And I don't know if anybody knows this, but does anybody know, I know the Senate is in debate right now on their version of the budget, but once they release their version, we're pretty well assured of where our window is, because then they go to conference committee and they, fight things out with the House. But once we have their budget, I think we feel a lot more secure about where the numbers are going to be. I don't know if that's going to occur before or after that May 30th date.
It'll happen before.
It will,
Yep,
okay, so
if it
that'll
ha-
be
if
good.
If it hasn't already. The first version is based on the governor, the second version we do with you is based on the House. We kind of ignored the rest to work on that one. Now that we're moving to version 3, we'll jump in and grab the numbers from the Senate, but they should be available if they're not already.
So version 3, everything should be squared away with the money coming in and what's going out.
Yes, and our Schedule 19 negotiation is complete, so that's set as well. Yep.
All right. All right, at that time, if nobody has any questions, we need a motion to concur this meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to, second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Franti?
Yes.
Mr. Kingston?
Yes.
Ms. Ty?
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for attending this meeting. We should have another one probably the end of May to wrap it up at budget version 3.0. And good night.